us kind of think about and discuss for a minute. First and foremost, when you hear those words, what's the kind of your first impression? Albert doesn't count. I'm not okay. Press company exempt. Don't throw you dogs or put pearls before swine.
Don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time.
Don't give of your energy to situations that really do not benefit you necessarily.
Don't give your energy to stuff that's not
Having awareness of who you're speaking to.
having an awareness of who you're speaking to. So how do we come into the, we're having an awareness of who we're speaking to. Does that bring back that thing where we were just told not to judge? We should be judged? How do we balance those
So
two?
we've often used that saying just to make ourselves sound better than the other person. I'm just not gonna cast my votes. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
Use that to dismiss the other guy.
And then that's totally a judgment piece of that point. Now, when we're doing that, yeah, you're not worth my time, my energy, my whatever.
I have pearls in your pig.
And you're a pig.
Yeah.
And so, so let's kind of think about that. How do we reconcile that with this loving Christ mind, seeing all good, accepting, honoring, manifesting? How do we balance those two kind of what appear to be opposite kind of concepts or feelings or judgments or states of minds or whatever?
I think it's a timing thing. There's another statement somewhere, and I don't know if it occurred in the Bible or not, but don't feed steak to babies. At some point, that child can have steak, but it might be not the
There's
right
a scripture
time.
talks about that we need milk, and then as we grow, we can then eat the meat. And that is the scripture on that one. But that is, so there is.
Where is that?
Is it Corinthians? I'll get the scripture. No, it's probably it was one of the books, one of the
Pauline letter.
yeah, Pauline letters to the church. But so there is a timing count. Says one of the things that in New Thought we say a lot is that when the students are ready, the teacher will appear. Now that feels better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's kind of put that into line with the scripture we just read about. Giving what's holy to the dogs or casting the pearls before swine. Have you experienced a situation where once you've gotten something, you've learned it, you've done whatever, you're so eager to get to share that with everybody else that you kind of drag you, oh, of course math is simple. Oh, of course its sentence structure is good, easy. Of course, you can do the 12 steps.
Right.
And you're out to save the world kind of thing. Have anybody else experienced that kind of situation?
Yes.
That's kind of where we're looking at that. In that, think about when you were on the other side of that statement, when sentence structure did make sense to you, or math wasn't easy for you, or the 12 steps were a challenge for you, or not something you were ready to do. How were you receiving other people saying that to you? It wasn't anything you were ready to hear.
Right.
It wasn't anything you were receiving. And depending on how severe the situation was, you got mad and you struck back, usually. You did a tongue lashing sometimes the other person was saying those things to you. Does that sound familiar? So they said that they may turn back and rend you. The tongue is death, life and death can be the tongue. Yeah. So that's kind of one of those situations is where, again, the timing, the energy, that those things, being able to say, when is it ready to be received? When and how? Are there some people that you have in your life or that you've experienced that you have to really think about how you're going to say something to them? You got to phrase it just so for them to be able to hear what you're saying? Okay. Here. There are some folks in some situations, I've had situations, things I had to kind of literally practice in my head how I was going to say something to some people, parents especially. But so that's kind of when you had to figure out how you're going to say how can this message be received. In marriages, it happens quite frequently with your partner. How am I going to say something that we can talk about versus fight about, whatever. So that's kind of one of those things. So it's bringing that in all those kind of situations and applying this with this scripture. It is a matter of knowing what it is that you're presenting. Is it the right time? Is it in the right manner? Is it receivable? One of the things that baby Baptists do a lot is we want to go save the rest of the world. We want to go reach on the street corners and tell the world about whatever, and tell you're going to hell. And you're going to be a whole fire and brimstone is the message to get them, to save them. Does that work all the time?
No. That goes back to the log in my eye.
Exactly. That's the scripture we just did last month. That was the scripture right before this one. See, putting you're talking about the dust in their eye and don't see the beam that's in your own. That's the scripture we did last month on this scripture right before. So that was a situation where in connect, again, what we did last month, we're talking about all that connecting pieces of us. Being known how and when we're connected and how to deliver the message. What is sayable, what is doable. I mean, let's think about something really even just simple. You go in, you get the little blue stick and it comes out and says pregnant. How do you tell, and when do you tell that to your partner, your parents, your family, your friends, whoever? I mean, sometimes you don't run in the bathroom around, blurt to everybody in the house. It's big, You think about when you're going to tell them how whatever, Or the new thing now is the baby gender reveal party kind of things. Right. Those are things that are planned and associated. So here, the same in here. When we're talking about it being the good news, well, what I consider good news may not necessarily be what you consider good news. It may be something I would like to share, but I've got to figure out how to share. One of the things that we're in the Southern Baptists are really good at is beating you over the head with the good news that you are a sinner and I'm going to save you. Yeah. But, and for some people, that works. For some people, that works. But is that, thinking back when I said, blending this to the Christ mind, is that more from I'm feeling love or I'm feeling fear?
Fear.
You're running me out of hell's fire to Jesus. I need you to say, well, do I share that? When I first moved to LaGrange, I was still coming back and forth here to church, and then in my proceeding to kind of try to look for a church in the area and those things, I visited a couple. I hadn't really, necessarily found anything I really wanted to. So I visited, a couple different around. I went out one evening and one Saturday night and did some things that I hadn't done before. Sunday morning, I'm joining the church. I'm sitting on the church seat. Oh Lord, please forgive me. That was not me finding a church that I felt comfortable and home with. That was out of fear. That was truly, totally out of fear. oh God, I can't get over it. I gotta go back to church today. That was one of those knee-jerk reaction kind of things. So, and then that brings up what we're gonna get to later about the seeds, about being planted in good ground, so in the stony ground where then they'll come and be taken away and killed soon. That's that kind of thing that's not rooted, it's not grown. So you've got to understand the ground you're planting into. And you've got to be, and so this brings up one of our 12 powers about wisdom, judgment. That's about discernment, not judging, calling you a pig or something, but judging. Discernment is the student ready? And am I the teacher? Because sometimes it's not even so much about this person being ready or not ready to hear. We have so many different churches, so many different collections of people around because everybody says the word, shares information slightly different. And there may be some other people in Albany right now using this very same scripture that are presenting it in a different way. And so you have to know, are you at a place that you can receive how they use? Y'all know that I'm a metaphysical person. My text of preference is the Bible. And I'm a scriptural teacher. But those ways that I listen and teach is different from the way I was taught it as a child and growing up. When I experienced and found a New Thought church, I was able to hear those things that I heard all my life, could quote scripture and could do all my life, but I heard them and received them in a different way. So that connecting with that church was not me running in fear of hellfire and brimstone, but for me from opening something that hit very deep and was like, that's what, that means something to me. I've told y'all many times, I've said this almost every time I speak, that I've always, growing up, wanted to figure out how did the sermon I said in on Sunday apply when me and my best friend had an argument on Monday. This was the place that I was able to hear those same scriptures, those same stories, those same sermons, topics, in a way that I could apply in my life. So that was when the student, Linda, was ready to hear the same message she'd been hearing all her life, but in words that touched that place that I connected with. So that's part of this thing is, if you're what we're doing here and saying today, what we doing on Sunday, we post on our Facebook page, there are lots of folks in Albany that it would be casting pearls before swine. It's not being able to, they can't receive that. It doesn't fit in where they're at and what their digestive system can handle. And this doesn't mean right or wrong, it just means where we're at, that time piece, where you're at. Can I understand? Can I receive? Can I perceive? Now, we're not saying that the pig, the swine out there ain't gonna ever be. That's the judgment call. You just a pig and you're not worth my time, my energy, my whatever. See you later. Deuces. That's just, and so have we just said that person's, the shaft and we're going to cast them into the fire to be burned up? Which is another scripture. But is that where if our thought is that we're all connected, we're all Christ, we're all one, do I just leave my family member, my brother, my sister, my neighbor as cast out and never, whatever? There are many different ways to share truth principles or truth principles. Now, if I read them in the Quran, if I read them in the Bible, if I read them in Upanishads, the Upanishads, whatever, it's still that truth. Can I get that from it? And so I can, one of the things we do, like even with movie night, when we hear whatever the movie means, and we look for those truth pieces in there, those messages. Reverend Joe says every song, every way has a message in it. So, but for some people, I can get the message, I can get the truth from music, I can get it from a book, I can get it from a sermon, but it's how can I receive it? So that dog or that pig, there's a way to get the message there. It's not, but it's not, a pig can't determine, oh, I'm here and this is Pearl, versus this is a good mud pile. Give me a good mud story and we can talk. We can walk and talk a while. Roll me in pearls, it's kind of rough on my back, it's not feeling good. So how can we connect and present that to those that we are connected with without that judgment call or that I'm better than you put down kind of thing?
With love.
With love.
Fear doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Well, it'll work temporarily.
Yes.
Observation.
Yes.
It's just a personal observation. But fear works on a temporary basis where, you come from a point of love, it's everlasting.
How many of us remember growing up and the rules of the house or the whatevers, we decided to break or not break because of what Daddy was going to do?
There's consequences. Oh, yeah.
And then at some point in time in your life, you had to come to the realization of, not necessarily I'm not going to do this because I'm going to get in trouble, but does this work for me or not?
Yeah.
Is this, it was always a rule in the house, you couldn't do blah, 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 but why? And is that something that is applicable to my life? Is that something that is to my good, and I've decided that I don't want to do this? And I've shared this with y'all as well. I grew up in Southern Baptist, so drinking, dancing, all that stuff was not good. But Linda's decision not to drink doesn't have anything to do with those things. It's Linda's a control freak. Linda don't want to be out of control. And the one time Linda got even somewhat close to 2 glasses of wine and stood up and was like, don't like that feel. Not for Linda. But again, that was something that had asked him and said, because it's wrong, whatever. But Linda had to come to that decision for herself. And that second glass of wine that night, the student was ready. The teacher appeared. And so that's that situation. So how do we do that? How do we take what we know that works for us or that seems good and exciting and joyful, and how do we share that with others without offending or getting them to go on the attack? How do we do that?
Well, you can plant a seed and not know if it's going to sprout or not.
Yes.
It may sprout, it may not.
That's what we were talking about. The ground that you grow, you're planting in, and planting that seed. And like I say, if somebody that's also totally against Bible, whatever. And Kathleen and I, the first time before I spoke, Kathleen asked me to speak. I questioned because I came in, and I've been here for a minute. I came in, we didn't have Bibles in the church, and I didn't see anybody bring in Bibles. So I said to Kathleen, I speak from the Bible. Is that going to be okay? I asked the question when we talked about it that first time. But again, it was a matter of making sure that I was going to be able to share something that was not going to, that for me felt good. For me was good news, was the holy, but that was not going to be something that was going to be offensive or going to, turn people away or make people stand off or not, or hurt. So that's where it's a part of that, the wisdom. One of our first line of our thing is, I create space to receive divine wisdom. Well, that's part of that receiving of divine wisdom. Understanding. Judgment. Knowing when, where, and how. And sometimes you do just have to take that step back and ask, how do I do this? How do I say it? How do I share? Do I share? Do I share? I mean, we've talked quite frequently about that we are one of the best kept secrets in the area. We talk about that quite frequently. So in thinking about that and looking at that, We've doing more things now to expose ourselves and share who we are in more public places and more public venues. We've often said we don't put out pamphlets, we don't go knocking on doors, as a church we've never done any of that kind of thing. We truly kind of when the student's ready, the teacher will be, we're here, we're putting ourselves out there for more people to know it, but are there ways that we can just not even necessarily sharing, oh, come to Unity, this is our church, you need to be on Sunday, but sharing what we're getting, what we're being fed, what we're learning, what we're experiencing, how our understanding is expanding with others in a way that they don't just kind of stomping on their feet and walk on. There's a scripture about knocking the dust off your feet and walking away. And if that's not in, then there are times and situations you do that. But we're talking about getting, the beginning of that, entering the doorway, giving out that information. So giving it out in a way that we're not cast out, or the person didn't walk away from is not. Is there a way that we can share who and what we are, what we believe, how we perceive and understand the good news to others, that they may be able to receive that?
Linda, I'm reminded of that story about the young lady who was cooking her first holiday dinner, and she cut off the end of the ham. And so she's like, why are we cutting off the end of the, I don't know, ask your mom. Mom, why'd you cut off the end of the ham? I don't know, ask your grandmother. Grandmother, why'd you do it? It fit into the pan. We don't know how our actions are perceived by others. But one of the ways to me, to kind of get that message across is to be Christ-like as best we can, because every day ain't Christ-like day, but to be Christ-like as best we can in our interactions with ourselves and with others. You know what I'm saying? Because other people look at us, and those impressions that we give out have an impression on that person that's watching, and you never know who that person is.
Sometimes we use this scripture about casting pearls before swine as a way to say we don't need to share about. I'll ask y'all, what are the three topics you don't discuss in polite company?
Politics.
Religion, politics, and money are the three subjects you don't discuss in polite company. So in religion, you typically almost list religion is the first one on that list. Politics coming and money. Why do we say we don't discuss those three things?
Gets people riled up. People get riled up over it.
That rending part of it. That coming back to rend you part of it. But is there a way to do that? Is there a way to discuss religion, politics, or money? And again, like I said, many times we have to think about what it is we're going to say and how we're going to say it in a manner that it can be received. One of my bosses was one of those, I literally would have to we were both hotheads, and so if there was something I really needed to talk to her about and do that, I'd have to really think about how was I going to make the statements. Well, there wasn't immediately just us going at each other like this, because that resulted in nothing. Besides us coming back around to me later on. So how, if there was something in particular, when there was something I needed for my clients, I needed to have something accomplished. Those were the times when it was just me, something about me, we can go at it, whatever. But when I was really trying to get something for some of my clients' programs, I had to really truly think about a way to, because I knew this person, I knew how they received stuff, I knew their typical answer to when I had a new project I wanted to start. So I had to think about how I was going to present this new project that I could get the buy-in. Wives, you always think to make the husband think it's his idea. And then they think they're so brilliant or whatever. Yeah, okay. but that planting that seed kind of thing. And so that's even here with the good news and with this, it's doing that because if you just go out there and throw it at some people somehow, it is going to be just thrown back at you. You're gonna get that in that rending, and it's not going to be received. And the end result you have is just upset folk, you and the other person upset, versus any sharing and any growth on both parts. So this is not only us. And so think about this. It's not just for us teaching others. It's about teaching ourselves as well. It's about teaching ourselves how to share, teaching ourselves how to accept, teaching ourselves how to be open for different opinions, different viewpoints. When I first kind of found New Thought, and it really, I'd say, seeped in my heart, for a minute there, I had a problem going back to my traditional churches. I had to learn how to pull that piece of the message that was from me out of however it was being presented. So that was one of those learning processes for myself. And so, it was like, at first I had to be just back away totally from all of it, because that's, that was what I was, wasn't the answer I was getting. I was looking for the answer. I found my answer here. I need to stay away from this for me. But now I've learned how to be able to hear it and accept through whatever. Because in the movies, in the whatever, my dad used to have to say the saying, even the drunk on the street corner, give you some truth every now and then. So, but you got to be able to hear it and receive it.
In time, Kathleen.
In
In time.
Mm-hmm. A stop clock is right at least twice a day. So you've got to be able to receive it at the time it is. So it's that's giving and receiving of the good news of the pearls is on both parts. We have to make sure we don't get so holier than thou that we can't hear from the other side of it as well.
But Lynn, don't you think that there's a lot of people in church that don't feel like they need it, they feel like they've got it, so they're not open to...
That's what I said. Is we got to be able to learn to hear and receive. Not only just, there are a lot of folks that I can preach at you all day. I'm good. I need to teach you. You don't want to need this. But in every experience, it's a two-way street. And I can put up a stop sign and block, roadblocked here, and not do it. But I'm done a disservice to me. But there are many of us in many situations. I'm not listening to you. I don't want to hear that. I know it, you don't, so, later for you. But that's what I said. I had to then learn how I could listen to those things again and still receive. Because I did that for a while. I put up that roadblock. But I had to open up, that was that learning part for Linda, was how to hear things that I thought didn't apply to me or didn't, make sense to me anymore. How to still be able to get the pearl from that. As we go forth in this next week month, think about, as you're sharing essay writing tips or whatever, how is it that your audience can receive that? And that it's not just being trampled on under their feet.